Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business intermediaries from across the country. And joining me on this segment is Bob Latham. He's the founder of Alta Praem out of Texas. Bob, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Bob, tell us a little bit about Alta Praem, and specifically, who are those types of clients that you specialize in helping?
Sure. So Alta Praem is a lower middle market business advisory, M&A advisory, and we primarily work on what's called the sell side. So we represent owners of businesses that are looking to sell their business. The industry tends to be very sell side oriented, but occasionally we do buy side advisory as well. Often that's an organization or a company that's already in business that wants to outsource the going out and finding that business that's a good fit for them. So Alta Praem focuses on Texas and surrounding states. We focus on the lower middle market, which is generically 2 to maybe as much as 50 million in value. That's usually roughly about the same in revenues. And we as a firm focus on kind of industrial type stuff. So manufacturing, distribution, maintenance, logistics, distribution, warehousing, things of that nature. Kind of dirty jobs type businesses, because I spent about 20 years in manufacturing, 10 years in construction. So that's kind of my background. And I can walk in and talk to a business owner and he can see pretty quickly I understand his business and the business it chooses in many cases.
Have these sellers been running their businesses for a long time, and is this the first time they're going through the selling experience? How informed are they when they reach you?
Usually the larger the business, the more informed they are. If they're on the smaller end, and regardless of the size, most of the time this is the first and only time they're going to sell a business. They may get information from what we call a trusted advisor, a CPA, an attorney. Maybe they have a wealth advisor, financial planner. So those are the people they tend to rely on. Hey, Joe, what do you know about this? What can I expect? Sometimes those advisors give them accurate information. Sometimes it's wildly off. So a lot of our job in talking to a potential client for the first time is making them aware of what the reality is in the marketplace.
Yes. So when they reach out to you, what questions are they asking? What's on their mind? And what kind of questions should they be asking?
Sure. The two most common ones they're going to ask is, what is my business worth? And then second of all, how much do you charge? And of course, the answer is it varies. But I can tell you in general, it doesn't vary a lot, and it hasn't varied over time. Studies have been done by various industry groups. And from the 70s on to current day, the multiples of earnings tend to be very narrow in their range for a given type of business. It's going to be, you look at two different kinds of earnings measures. Usually as you get into the lower middle market, it's something called EBITDA, which most accountants and financial types are aware of, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. It's a rule of thumb. You can get more specific in your analysis, but it gives you a real good idea. Typically for a business that has earnings EBITDA somewhere around 500,000 a year to $1 million and up, that multiple is going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. I get quarterly reports and updates on the market. It's a very steady number. As you go up in size to maybe the 20 million in revenues, that number will begin to creep up to maybe 5 or 6. If it's a hot or sexy industry that's in fashion right now, those can be higher into the 7 and 8 and sometimes even 9 times range. But generally, especially for the kind of things that I tend to specialize in, they're pretty stable, pretty solid. They're usually going to be in that 4 to 7 times their earnings range. As far as what we charge, it varies. The bigger the company, of course, the lower percent of our success fee. But it can be anywhere from a very small business, somewhere around 10%, up to a 30, $40 million company might only be 3 or 4%.
Great insight. Bob, this entire series has been inspired by the headlines of the Great Resignation and folks wanting to start their next chapter working for themselves. And obviously one of the smarter ways to go is buying an existing business with a record. Has this affected your particular market? What have you seen? Have you really seen the more buyers out there, and is that inspiring more sellers that have been on the fence?
I don't know that it's inspired more sellers, but we definitely have seen increased buyer activity over the past year or so. In spite of the pandemic, in spite of a lot of indicators being off, there's still a lot of people out there that have decided they're going to take the plunge and go out and buy a business. They might have been laid off. They might be sick of the corporate life and all the stuff that goes with that. A lot of people have realized you can run a business from a long way away. So this remote working, where maybe you go to the business physical location, a few times a month or a few days a week, whatever it may be. So I think that's opened the doors for a lot of people that maybe thought they couldn't do that previously to suddenly go out there and try and find a business that they can own and run. And absolutely buying a business that's in existence is a big head start over trying to start from scratch. It sounds like a lot of money, but you've got automatic revenue and profits coming in. Yes, financing can be difficult sometimes, but it's just a whole lot easier for anyone that's ever started a business from scratch. They can tell you it always cost a lot more and took a lot more time than they thought just to get going and start making money.
Bob, what inspired you to get into this industry and become a business intermediary? How'd you get started?
Well, like a lot of good things, you stumble into it, right? It wasn't a grand plan. I had decided to shut down my construction business and get into the brokerage side of things on commercial real estate. I had done some M&A work with a couple of companies that I was involved in. One I ran, one I was just like a VP. Because of my background, financial background and education, I was very involved in the valuation and the acquisition process. I met with a guy trying to network and drum up business for my commercial real estate brokerage, and he was opening the franchise office for Houston, the franchise that he was with. And we started talking. He heard my background and said, well, I'm just opening this office. It sounds like you'd be a good fit. So I said, okay, fine, I'll give it a try, but I'll keep doing my real estate thing. After about 3 years, I was making money in both of them, but I was just running out of time in the day and decided that I had a better advantage and background on selling businesses than I did selling commercial real estate. So I've been doing that for about 8 years now. This will be my 9th year, and just started Alta Praem this year in January. And so excited about that. We've already got our first client in less than a month. And so we're off and running. So I'm excited about it.
That's terrific. Congratulations. Bob, before I ask you my last question, is there anything I didn't think to ask that you feel is important to share in regards to buying or selling a business today? What do you have to say?
I think since your program seems to be targeted toward the Great Resignation and people who might be looking to buy a business, if they're not already experienced in that process, it is good to, number one, talk to a business intermediary just to get some idea. And I talk to buyers all the time. We're not trying to make money off of that. We want them to be educated as to what the process is. They become a better buyer if they understand the process. We do, like I said, do buy-side work. Typically, that's for a firm, not an individual. The other thing I would say is assemble a good team before you go out into that marketplace. Find a really good transactional CPA and a transactional attorney. Don't hire a guy who's writing wills and doing business contracts or handling your purchase of your house, whatever. Find someone who's focused in that transaction of a business process. They are much better advisors. There is a difference. So you want to build that advisory team before you go out into the marketplace.
For folks listening now who are in your area that you can serve, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Sure. So we have a website, of course, as most people do, and it's Alta Praem. That's ALTAPRAEM.com. And that is a word we constructed synthetically that means high reward. So we primarily focus on sellers of businesses. And if they work with us, we're going to get them that high reward that they've worked so hard to achieve in their business.
Bob, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your knowledge on my program today. And I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
That was Bob Latham. He's the founder of Alta Praem in Texas. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.